Hello, everyone. I'm Javon Taylor, representing False Ego, eco-friendly clothing brand locally based here in Denver, Colorado. I want to first thank the Salazar Center for creating this opportunity. It's been an amazing journey going through this process and working with our amazing team who have all shown dedication and genuine effort to, bring this project to life. And our project title is From Redlining to Green, Natural Solutions Through Small Business Leadership. And I want to thank all of our partners at the National Wildlife Federation, the National Wildlife Federation, Denver Botanic Gardens, Edens, University of Colorado, Denver, Lincoln Hills Cares, Butterfly Pavilion, and Urban Sanctuary. And we're all looking to fight this. This picture depicts the inequities in our city. Here in Denver, we know this as the inverted L. It also, not only depicts the inequities within tree canopies, but within health and education and displacement. But today we're here to talk about green infrastructure. Which Denver happens to severely lack, contrary to what most people think about Colorado. And in fact, in our focus area of Northeast Denver, also known as 5 Points, this area is 80% concrete, which has a high concentration of impervious surfaces. And if we're talking about Colorado as a whole, only 6% of its total land occupancy is dedicated towards green and open spaces, which puts Colorado or Denver at one of the lowest ranking major cities in the United States compared to LA and DC and Chicago. And this map right here depicts a redlining map from the 1930s. These 4 points depict what was 5 Points. And, as we all know, redlining is a racially focused, systematic denial of various services, including the environmental infrastructure. And through denial of environmental infrastructure, here's a map of 2018 showing how 5 Points had one of the highest rates, hospitalization rates for asthma, directly correlating to the low tree canopy and bad air quality, as well as high carbon intake. And using one of the tools we received during the summer series, I put in the address of our shop in 5 Points, and our area ranked a 4.1 out of 100, which is terrible, qualifying this area as a hazardous environment and not even coming close to meeting the World Health Organization green accessibility standards. And, as I've learned more and more about the current, environmental state of my community, as a steward, I've taken a challenge upon myself and stepped up to the plate as a leader in my community and figure out ways to change this. And during that process, I've found the true power that small businesses hold being the binding force between large organizations, needed resources, and a community vision. And I think that's one thing our city lacks is a solidified citywide vision. And our approach to tackling that issue is putting small businesses at the forefront and having them serve as a conduit between, various large nonprofit organizations and government agencies, as well as neighborhood organizations, a conduit between long-term residents and policies, as well as a conduit between the community needs and focused government funding. We ultimately want to develop a richer partnership between all these different sectors. And, with small businesses leading this charge, we, will have them create green infrastructure toolkits that give sort of a implementation blueprint for other small businesses and other registered neighborhood organizations, as well as work with other community partners to develop a workforce development program. Through the mobilization of these leaders in our community, which we call block captains, we'll dive into hands-on learning of these different community priorities. And with this toolkit, it then enables the community to advocate for themselves. And, it turns their visions into concrete asks, helping them improve city processes and prioritize city funding properly, and ultimately create a bigger dialogue, upon these various issues. And as we approach this issue from multiple angles, we then will first be prioritizing community outreach, really learning and, from the vision from these communities, what they see green spaces as well as hosting various trainings and workshops focused on advocacy and leadership techniques, as well as mapping tools that provide evidence to assist them during their advocacy efforts. And when we talk about workforce development, we want to reinvest in our youth, via trainings, which can push them towards greener career paths, which then aid to the adaptation and resiliency programs that we want to create, helping these communities fight the ever-evolving threat of climate change. And, with the workforce development, it'll also assist the current lack of skilled workers we have in our city in our urban forestry workforce that, has been designed to expand and protect our, different urban tree canopy. And when we talk about small businesses, we want to really build on top of our current business coalition, and we want to leverage the power of our small businesses, having them serve as spokespeople for different sectors of 5 Points or the city, and have them work directly with the business improvement districts, leveraging their funding, leveraging their access to funding, their various resources, as well as their different government connections. And when we talk about government and policy and analysis, we're really looking to leverage the existing policies, hence some of the ones that were passed this year, like the Environmental Justice Act, as well as Ballot 2A. And when we also, work with the city, we want to improve the current processes and identify priority investments, pushing the needle on a lot of these newly passed policies, and not just make them sign documents, but words that are actually put into action. So regarding our implementation going forward, we want to really leverage the resources we've accumulated thus far since we broke ground and started planning this May. And we want to pretty much have our work grow into the southern parts of 5 Points, which have been less developed, and have a higher concentration of minority-owned businesses as well as minority residents. And I honestly, in my spirit, really believe that we have the team for this. It's already happening, and we've already put the work in. We've kind of taken matter into our own hands, and we've been really scrappy and resourceful. And I personally rode my bike around this whole neighborhood looking for areas of need, looking for spots that need greenery, and with very little funding and with zero financial support or permit approval from the city, we've managed to host multiple volunteer days, getting 50+ people to come out and with pickaxes and shovels, and have a direct hands-on impact in their community. And kind of what we call guerrilla gardening. And it kind of shows an example of what can happen. So just imagine if we had financial backing behind us to actually build infrastructures and to build systems within the people who serve as the fabric for these communities, the possibilities are endless. And I mean, that really just starts with a knowledge transfer and a transfer of skills and experience. Here's a picture right here showing how Annie from Botanic Gardens, teaching our 50 volunteers how to properly plant these pollinators inside the ground. And here's a picture of myself teaching some local residents about our project and the environmental state of our community and ways to get involved. We got support letters. And I think this is the power that small businesses have when it comes to mobilizing and representing whole communities for initiatives like this. And I want to pass it on to another local community stakeholder and small business owner, Allie Duncan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Duncan, the owner of Urban Sanctuary Yoga and Wellness Center and nonprofit located in the Welton Street corridor in the historical Black community of Denver, known as 5 Points. I'm also the president of the Heart of 5 Points Neighborhood Association. And my association with this project was a natural fit because I view the growth of our youth in our community the same way that I view the growth and plant of trees. We must invest time and resources to develop our future with the same effort we plant and grow flora. I also believe there is a connection between us, trees and plants, and the earth, and that must be taught, learned, and maintained for us to have communities that help our residents grow, thrive, and feel connected and invested. With the roles that I play in this community, I am leading and encouraging others to step up and step in to support this project so it will thrive and expand. And thank you. And I will turn it now over to JR.
Hello, everyone. I'm JR Lapierre with Lincoln Hills Cares. I'm going to focus on the Pathways program, which is a component of the workforce development. We employ local youth to improve nature in the neighborhood in multiple ways, such as park development, pollution reduction in the river, and growing and selling of local food. We are working on building a wealth for youth and Black businesses while greening our city. Our youth are leading the outreach to local businesses. Several members are lifelong residents of the neighborhood, from working in local business, then going off to college and coming back to the community. Through their work, they are serving, leading, and mentoring youth. Our strengths are, we are youth and community focused. We have Black leadership. Many individuals that are from the neighborhood are community connected, and we have the experience. This project excites us because our youth are the community will connect with local businesses, leaders in the community. This reinvest in the power that already exists in the Northeast Denver area. Now I'll pass it on to Brian from National Wildlife Federation. Thank you.
Thanks, JR. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Kerzel. I'm with the National Wildlife Federation and honored to be a part of this coalition Here we show key performance indicators that we're going to use to track progress in each of 4 main focus areas that Javon was describing. I won't go through each of these in detail, but rather just summarize by saying that we've developed metrics, both qualitative and quantitative, that are going to ensure that we really achieve impact in the social aspects of our work, including communities and with small businesses, as well as in efforts to build power in the local community, as JR just described, through workforce development, and by addressing the policy and the funding needs that can result in real long-term sustainable change for this neighborhood and beyond. Go ahead. So the thing that I want to hone in on is that all of these efforts in the community with partners and with the city are going to collectively result in a suite of green infrastructure improvements that address the historic inequities in the 5 Points area of Denver, but also improve climate resilience while creating models, policies, funding, and hopefully coalitions that can then take these benefits to other Denver communities. You may be asking, how can we accomplish all of this? But with this team that you're seeing on this slide, and the variety of expertise and community connections that this group all brings to the table, this is very feasible. I won't go into the roles of each partner because we don't have time today, but I'll just say that with this lineup of partners and with more supporting us every day, we can really accomplish great things with just a little added boost. I'll hand it over to Javon to finish things up.
Hey, y'all, I just want to let you know we're way into the question and answer period. And so if you'd like, Javon, say a couple more words, but I want to make sure that you don't lose out on that. So we have
100%.
about 7 minutes left.
Okay, yeah, I just want to quickly say, all these pictures here are taken from places in Denver. And with our project, we really want to make sure, the benefits and access to nature and green infrastructure are available to all people. And, with the help of the Salazar Center, we're really hoping to make this vision become a reality and really propel Denver to a more green, healthy, and progressive future. And again, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity of being part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Evaluators, jump right in.
Okay, I guess we don't have that much time. So thank you for the engaging presentation. And I just had 2 questions. Hopefully they're quick. How many businesses are you targeting in the 5 Points area, particularly Black-owned businesses? And then the second question, what are some of the barriers to really advancing GSI in the 5 Points area? Maybe name a couple.
For sure. I think the number of businesses doesn't really matter as much as we really want to just pretty much coordinate with businesses who have who are community stakeholders. I think there's a difference between a small business and a small business who actually has trust and connection with their community. So we're targeting those businesses. And as far as GSI, could you explain that, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. You mentioned you had in one of the slides barriers to green stormwater infrastructure. And I was just wondering what were some of the barriers, a couple of them, that you've identified.
Yeah, I'll chime in, Javon, because one of the things that National Wildlife Federation will bring to this is sort of the policy analysis aspect of all this. And a couple of things that we've already encountered as we've started this work is the fact that it's very hard to break up concrete in the city, and in particular in front of businesses. Oftentimes there's various utilities, et cetera. And so there's the permitting process is one of the greatest barriers by far. And so working with what we call DOTI, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, we're going to identify those pinch points in the process and try to advocate for or work with the city to try to assure that there is an easier process and we can break up the bottleneck. The other thing that I'll mention is that recently, Javon mentioned ballot 2A, which was passed in November of 2020. There's $40 million for climate resilience work in the city of Denver, and they're trying to figure out how to use that funding. And so I think this money that we are looking for today is not for that green infrastructure in particular, it's for the capacity so that we can get the community's priorities in front of the city who has the money to invest in these places.
That's actually super helpful, Brian. Maybe this also just kind of ties into Jawan's question, which is sort of how many businesses, or like what would the area of impact be, right? How many blocks, how many, acres, or however we want to classify, are we aiming for? And so maybe it's not number of businesses, but, just thinking about geographic spread.
Yeah, so I mean, 5 Points is currently just the northeast part of Denver. So as far as miles, I would say it's the areas we're targeting is really probably around like a 8-mile radius, I would say. So yeah.
Great, thank you. I think the word I was thinking of was blocks. I don't know why I couldn't come up with the
Blocks,
word.
for sure, absolutely.
Sorry, end of the day.
But the business districts, I mean, they're pretty spread out around here. So I mean, it's a lot of blocks, I would say, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
We have about 2 minutes left. Sadhu or Gil, either of you have questions?
Well, you are basing a lot of the project on the small business. The small business have been hit very hard with the pandemic. Many are shutting down and many are close to shutting down. How do you convince them? How are you getting them on board that this is good for them? I mean, I agree with you, but how do you convince a business owner that is barely surviving that they have to get on board?
I think we've, through National Wildlife Federation, they've done research, and there's been research done previously showing how these green infrastructures pretty much create an environment that make people want to spend more money. I mean, businesses have seen 12 to 14% sales increases due to green infrastructure being directly in front of their businesses. So that's a plus for sure. And you go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to add, like, that's NRDC research that, yeah, people are willing to spend 8 to 12% more money in places that have green infrastructure, as Javon said. And also, one of the points you make about COVID is a lot of things are happening outside now, and on a hot block with no trees or shade, it's a lot harder for a business owner to expand what they're doing to attract people to their space or utilize that outdoor space to bring people into their business. And so whether it's restaurants or some local bars or stores like Javon has, having that friendly outdoor space can be part of a good business model. The challenge we're hearing from business owners, though, is who's going to take care of it. And that's, I think, a critical piece in all this is working with Lincoln Hills Cares and their Pathways program to make sure that we have a youth development program that can do the stewardship work, so that it's not on the business owners to necessarily be the only ones taking care of and maintaining these green infrastructure pieces.
If we have time, Beth, just to follow up on the question, and maybe it goes to Javon, but I guess I'm curious, are most of the small businesses participating by doing projects that are in front of or kind of adjacent to their businesses? Like, is this part of kind of a beautification initiative along the kind of commercial corridors?
Yeah, so that's what we've done so far. We've taken over some of the right-of-ways in front of the businesses, as well as some of the porch areas and some of the balcony areas, and put planters. We've broken down, concrete, put some trees down and some pollinators, and we've just kind of been growing it from there. So it's definitely began during the immediate sectors in front of the business, for sure.
Okay, cool, thanks. And have there been any efforts to take part of the roadway, create like little pocket parks and stuff like that? In other places, it's been pretty successful to create storm gardens or even patios in the roadway
Exactly.
to increase the green space. Are you guys doing that yet, or?
Yeah, that's part of the plan for sure. That's where Botanic Garden comes in. They've done various xeriscape projects around the city and medians of roadways. And I think that's the thing, especially about Denver. As I said earlier, it's 6%. Section of the space is dedicated towards green spaces. So it's not about, making use of spaces, it's about reimagining certain spaces. So that's when you add these different, xeriscape medians or different parkways or different parks to beautify these areas. So
thank you.
Thanks so much to the whole team, Paul Seago, National Wildlife Federation, Lincoln Hills Cares, all of you guys. As a Denver resident, it's wonderful to see what you're working on.